Thank you. You may be seated. Call the roll.
Here.
Jay Johnson.
Here.
Rob Wells. Bill Lichulis.
Good morning.
Councilman Bill Sankey.
Here.
Mayor Dan Allers.
Here.
Commissioner Pendergrass, Graham Myers, Brian Kramer, Councilman Larry Kiesel, and Councilman Michael Fuller.
Okay, did you catch that Commissioner Holly Smith was here?
Councilwoman Holly Smith is present. I'm sorry I didn't hear you when you called my name.
Thank you. Did everyone get a chance to read the minutes from the February 8th meeting?
I did. Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Moving on to public to be heard. Do we have anyone that wants to speak? The floor is yours.
Good morning, council members. I'm Beth Oliver, Vice President of Sales and Marketing with Offshore Sailing School. We're based here in South Fort Myers, and it's been a minute since I've been here. And over the past 18 months, like everyone, we've been hard at work trying to shore up everything that Hurricane Ian tried to take away. So I'm really pleased to tell you this morning that we are returning to the Pink Shell Beach Resort and Marina starting in May. So we will actually have a full contingency of our fleet vessels, our staff, and 4 locations in Florida and the 2 locations in the Caribbean, in the British Virgin Islands, as of May. So we're very excited. We're back to having all 6 locations. Some are different than previous locations, but nonetheless, we're here, we're hardy, we're strong, we're ready. So come sailing with us. Thank you.
Question for you?
Thank you. Commissioner?
Yes, Councilwoman.
I believe you had quite a presence on Captiva as well. Will you be returning there?
We did return there shortly after Hurricane Ian, thanks to the good work of Twin Waters Island Resort and Spa. Thank you, Tony, and all of your staff. I don't know, somehow they were in a bubble, and they really didn't sustain as much damage as other places. So we're really excited that we're still remaining on Captiva as well. So we're St. Petersburg, Captiva, Fort Myers Beach, and Key West. That is a new location for us. We opened in January, and then Scrub Island, Tortola, and the British Virgin Islands. Thank you.
Thank you. I knew you were. I just wanted to make sure you got those locations out.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public to be heard? Seeing none, do we have any municipalities to be heard? First,
Hey, morning everyone. Chad Schutz, environmental staff for the town of Fort Myers Beach. It just seems like five years ago started out with the town, and feels like a lifetime that sea turtle season ended, and my predecessor notes were plopped on my table, and I was told I was in charge of beach management. It's been a great opportunity, steep learning curve with that couldn't have been successful without Mr. Steve, county staff, Mike Campbell, as well as our shared coastal engineer, Michael Poff, over at the Coastal Engineering Consultants firm that has gotten us over the permitting and design finish line. So this is why you bring some paper. So it's a great feeling to know that we're going to be opening bids on this coming Monday, and the Rue Nourishment project that we've worked so hard on is coming to fruition this summer and fall. I just wanted to give y'all some updates on the current beach projects that are happening. As you know, the town built the FEMA berm last summer from Margaritaville to south to Big Carlos Pass on the non-engineered beach. We had some environmental consternation, but the numbers don't lie. We had record shorebird nesting. Most notably, the snowy plovers had record productivity, and we had a quadfecta, if you will, with all 4 species of shorebirds nesting on that 7-mile strip of Fort Myers Beach. The mama turtles liked it as well, and we had hatching and emergent success rates of over 70%, and even had a 100%er nest coming out of the berm. One of the lessons that we learned was to get the berm up fast and make it continuous. So, challenge your staff and attorneys and politicians to build the berm. If we ever have a future event, build that berm as fast as possible as an emergency measure to protect property and infrastructure. We had property owners that lost tens of thousands of dollars when the berm was halted as we ran into shorebird nesting season, and it was clear to see that the berm worked, and where there were gaps, we had significant overwash into properties and infrastructure following Idalia. So we're currently hauling 112,000 tons funded by the FDM legislative grant to fill in scours outside of our renourishment project area and reconstruct some berm that was degraded by Idalia. We also have built back our accesses to restore ADA grade, and that project is wrapping up this week. But we took advantage of the gift price that our truck haulers over at EarthTech gave us for the truck haul project, and did a change order and parlaying that to build a berm on the north side of Estero Island and offer those properties protection and give the sea turtles some elevation to lay nest. Our effective rate for that project is around $50 per cubic yard, which is great, and that beach is low-lying and in need of protection. So we're looking forward to the big project, the 1 million cubic yard renourishment dredge project, planned to start in June. The engineered design will tie into the berms that are constructed, and we will have a healthy, resilient, and inviting beach for all to enjoy by 2025. And with that, the town sincerely thanks the TDC for all of your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other municipalities to be heard? Yep.
Morning, Council. Joe Petrelli, Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Cape Coral. I'm here today to try to gain support for to fund the Yellow Fever Creek Boardwalk Trails project in Cape Coral that was not eligible for the Beach and Shoreline project. We're requesting funding based on Nature Center utilizing Florida Statute 125.01045B, which permits use of funds for nature centers. Just a little background, Yellow Fever Creek Preserve is a 195-acre preserve located in northeast Cape Coral. The preserve includes a cypress forest, natural and creative wetlands, and a 20-acre pond. A variety of ecosystems are present in the preserve, including pine flatwoods, oak hammock, freshwater marshes, flag ponds, and cypress forest. The preserve actually links up with Lee County 2020 preserve portion of Yellow Fever Creek and the Yellow Fever Creek Restoration Project interlocal agreement between Lee County and the City of Cape Coral. Partners also include Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission to enhance sports fishing opportunities and stocking the pond, and with native fish species and installing submerged aquatic vegetation. Currently, the preserve is under construction. We're building a nature center there. We're going to have trails added to it. We're going to have a disc golf course. The pond is there, and we're also going to have over 20 campsites. Those campsites will be putting into the tourist development tax. So we feel it's a benefit for Lee County and Cape Coral to partner on this. This project that we're looking to fund includes an additional 1,805 linear feet of new or enhanced nature trails, 8,958 linear feet of boardwalk through wetlands, 320 square foot viewing decks, educational signage, and wayfinding maps. New and existing enhanced trails will connect to boardwalks into wetlands, allowing visitors and tourist access in seasonal and year-round wetlands. So for us, we feel it's a great partnership between us, the council, and Lee County to really get this project rolling and continue to move that preserve and move that that location for tourist attraction within Lee County. Previously, we've partnered on projects since 2000, and projects that total about $8 million. This project's cost, we're asking for $792,100 with a match of $142,000 from the city.
I was just wondering if somebody could clarify why it was not eligible for beach and shoreline.
Andrew?
It is not eligible because it's a nature center. Our, under beach and shoreline, we have a specific Florida statute in which to fund these projects. That project is not under Section A, it is under Section B. The TDC plan outlines what you all fund. Number 3 is you all fund beach and beach park facilities and all the things that relate to A, but not to B in your TDC plan. It can be funded, however, if you go under the more general, can't remember what the first one is. It's funding of tourist development, marketing, and things like that. You could go under that one, but not specifically under A.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification on that. So is it the way they requested? I mean, if they requested funding for something specific along the shoreline for the project, would it be eligible, or would it still be ineligible because of the overall project?
It could be eligible if it dealt with the protection of the shoreline, renourishment, or maintenance of the shoreline. That project does not specifically deal with that. It is more of a nature center specifically for the things that it is requesting. It can be funded under a nature center, but it can't be funded under the beach park facilities portion of the statute.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Good morning, Adriana Peterson with the City of Cape Coral Economic and Business Development Office. I have a presentation to, thank you. So we have a lot going on this weekend in Cape Coral. Cape Coral Bike Night, it will be our last bike night for the season. So that begins at 5 o'clock on Southeast 47th Terrace. That morning, we have the Full Throttle Car Show, which is taking place at Four Freedoms Park. That starts between 9 and noon. And then, of course, every Saturday, the Farmers Market at Club Square. Earth Day celebration at Four Freedoms Park on Saturday, April 20th from 2 to 7 p.m. We'll have live music, local vendors. Cultural Fest, which will take place Saturday, April 27th, starting at 11 a.m. at Cultural Park. And come join us for some international foods, live music, performances. Again, there'll be local vendors. Each week, we have a business spotlight on our social media highlighting coral businesses. These are just a few of our businesses that were highlighted over the last few weeks, as well as our social media engagement. We're excited to have our Cape Coral mural. It was also our final location for Quest. This project was a partnership with Lee County VCB, Fort Myers Mural Society, and the City of Cape Coral. The artists are currently working on adding AI to the mural. And also VCB has retained the service of Fort Myers Mural Society to design and implement approximately 10 murals throughout the community. And again, this was our final location. It was completed in March for Quest, and it was no cost to the city or the CRA. And just an update on our Quest, we had 1,293 people sign up, 3,245 location check-ins, 241 prize awarded, 81 coupons redeemed, 69 people who entered to win the 2-night stay at the Westin. We had 30 check-ins completed to the entire scavenger hunt, and people who entered for the Sunsplash season pass. And just a few updates on our some of our larger projects that are taking place in Cape Coral. We have Seven Islands Getaway Resort. Currently, architects are working on the contract for the island and structures. Army Corps of Engineers application has been submitted, and we anticipate 18 to 24 months for the application review and development agreement being finalized. And then we also have the Cape Coral Grove project. It's a $920 million project. There will be 70 buildings, 350,000 square feet of commercial, retail, and dining, 125,000 square feet of leasable office space, 100-room hotel, 1,500 multifamily units, and they are currently starting with the infrastructure, which will be followed by multifamily in Q2 of this year. And in Q1 of 2025, we should see the town center start to be under construction. And one more thing that I did not include in this presentation is each month we hold an industry roundtable at the City of Cape Coral. This month on the 19th, which is next Friday, it will focus on tourism, recreation. Any local businesses that would like to participate in our industry roundtable, again, that'll be on April 19th at City Hall. It begins at 8 a.m. Any questions?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other municipalities to be heard? Okay, moving on, Councilmember Smith.
I just needed to note in my anxiousness to be efficient and make a motion for the minutes, I've rolled off as a voting member, so it was not my position to do so. So I need to have that recalled so we can make sure that's taken care of from our voting members.
So I made it to part 4 of the agenda before screwing up is what you're telling me.
Before I did.
So with that, I would look for a motion from a voting member.
I'll second it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, gents.
Our pleasure.
And all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Thank you for getting me back on track. The report of the Executive Director, Tam.
Good morning and happy April. It is my pleasure to share with you today both January and February a report here because, of course, we did not have a meeting last month. So January bed tax collection, 5.1, almost 5.2 million, up 20% over January of 23, and February, 5.7 million. For the fiscal year to date, of course, starting October 1st through February, 20 million, about 18% above where we were last year. Climbing back out a bit, still a long way to go. In terms of the...
I'm sorry. You don't know where we are compared to like 22.
I'm going to show you that in just a few
Be
seconds.
patient. I got
Yes,
it.
sir. You know what? Amanda, did we hide that one? Let's show it. We had a lot on the agenda, so we were thinking that we would not show that one. But you know what, Bill, I knew you were going to ask. I should have left it in there. So there you go. January 24 is probably most similar to January of 21. Above 2019, below, if you'll remember, January of 2020 was a bang-up year, as was January of 22. But there's your context, if that helps, for the 2 months.
Oh, I'm sorry I asked.
Now you see why I hit it. Doesn't really answer any questions, right?
Well, it just shows the goal to get what we want to get back to.
Back to,
So,
correct.
We all know what the goal is now.
Yes, exactly. I felt like it was a little too, sometimes it's very clear, that one felt like it was a little wobbly. Star report for January, occupancy down 7.7%, ADR down a similar amount, almost 8%, for a RevPAR decline of 15%. And again, Bill, for, where does this fall relative to everything else? You will see, this was not a great January for sure. in terms of occupancy. And then we'll do the same for February. And then you have your calendar year to date there. A little bit better occupancy in February, as you would expect, 80%, not down quite as much, and much more similar to what we're seeing around the state when you look at the comparative destinations. And so you can see how it ranks for it's like a 6-year summary there.
I think when you look at January, from what we saw, is the weather was.
The weather, it hurt us, absolutely.
Killed us.
Absolutely.
February was touch and go, but I mean, we're seeing occupancy for those that have hotels that are trying to get back online. What's it going to be? We're full right now, but rate is down, 20%. So, until these buildings that need to come down, and more of the businesses get back online, I think it's going to be hard to get back to those full rates. But I think we're anticipating 25 get back to normal, to getting the rate back up.
Moving forward, but it's going to be a slug, right? I mean, it's just going to be a slug.
24 is going to be choppy.
Yeah.
So.
Agreed. And for your information, in your packet is a STR presentation that was presented at Destinations Florida's Marketing Summit last week. And you will see that there's been some softening across the state, not just in our area. And they had some information on 23, the full year, and also a little bit of an outlook for 24. So you want to pay attention to that as well, in your bedtime reading or first thing in the morning with your coffee reading, however you prefer to do it.
I just had a comment, and for Bill, yeah, you're full, because that's when people come down to Florida, they still want to get to the beaches, so they're searching for any of those very limited accommodations. I know the market does not tell the same story. Although you'd think that we would have the impact of not having the available rooms, people right now are going other places while we're in our recovery. So we have seen a very different inland market in terms of occupancy, in terms of rate. So I think that is probably going to continue until we get a lot of our inventory back and people are ready to spend that money for the visitor expectation for coming to the beaches here in Southwest Florida. Very different story on the inland market.
Yeah, it doesn't help when we drop rate on the beach for you guys. So it lowers, it gives them an option of more potential to come out to the beach. So.
But we've also seen a very, it's almost a false increase in rates, in that upswing in the last few years. And with the inventory coming on market, as well as that inventory getting back on market, the new inventory, those rates might have seen a false high that we might not see again in some of these inland markets for a while. So, that's my particular take on that from over years.
We've seen that, most of us have been around for a while. We remember after Charlie, the impacts to the inland hotels, and then we built a whole bunch of inland hotels. And then we have Irma, and we see the same thing, and now Ian. I think that you're right. You're much more of a cycle and a little bit of a roller coaster than they typically. They have a seasonal cycle at the beach, but it's different.
We're seeing that same cycle, and we saw a lot of people leave at the end of February and not stay through March. People that come to us normally that we'll see daily throughout March left in February because the weather wasn't as bad up north as normal. Plus, they didn't have the money. It was worse here.
But interestingly, the tidbit to that is they had a horrible
horrible March.
End of March and April. I mean, we had an event in Grand Rapids and it was snowing. It was sleeting in Boston last week. And snowing. So it's been a weird year. I think that might get a few people on the plane, come in this direction a little bit later.
You haven't gotten to it yet, but certainly a leading indicator is air travel, and when we see the volume of people coming into the airport, they're coming, which is good. So the potential is as things open and get filled up and rates go up, then I think that's the good news, I think, is that the leading indicator is there that they want to come and they want to access what we have to offer.
Every indication we have, much like during the pandemic, is we can't wait to get back, right? They want to come back. They're having to make another choice because they want a certain vacation experience, but they will be back, I'm confident. Good news on the vacation rental side, we're seeing growth in occupancy there. I realize it's a completely different model than the hotel model, but we are seeing increases there. And that's true both in January and February. And when I look out at the bookings at this point this year versus last year through key data, all the indicators are up for the whole year. So not as much as you see on these slides, but you know, it's a ways out looking at the whole year. So good news there. In terms of our hotel room count, we are at 77.1%. Had the pleasure on Monday of attending ribbon cutting at Sanibel Siesta. 62 rooms came online. To see Sanibel get above that 15% mark. We're happy about that. Can't wait to see the number of rooms growing out there. That's good news. And John and I had a conversation that between Sanibel and Captiva now they're above 25%, which is very monumental. So we're excited about that. Still a long way to go though, as we all know. To Councilman Steiche's point, you see that the airport passenger traffic increases in January and February, and you know, I believe February was the second best February ever. So really good news coming out of the airport. And, you know, I will remind, you know, all of us, we share that airport with other communities in Florida. They use us and go other places. But it is great news to see the traffic and the demand for Southwest Florida being so strong. I would like to invite Ray up to give you the communications report.
Good morning, Council. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I'm going to hold this up because this is important stuff. So basically, since the beginning of the year, we've had 14 journalists come to the area, and I just want to say thank you to all the partners we've worked with to host them, to you know, just give them a good rounded experience. We've had a lot of different groups. We've had Canada, we've had domestic cities, UK, Detroit. We've had New York, Target Markets, Cleveland, Grand Rapids. And I just want to say, you know, this is a cooperative effort. And again, I sincerely appreciate how easy it's been to work with everybody to get these people here and get them reporting on us. Before I go too much further, I want to give a special shout out to somebody who's not here because they are the consummate team player. And that is Miriam Dotson, our teammate, who helped with the Southwest Florida Ag Expo, which was a huge thing and a new thing for us this year. We were glad to be part of that, and she was the external communications person and internal communications person. She did an outstanding job, and just want to make sure she gets kudos for that from me. So we also took our show on the road, speaking of Grand Rapids, to the New Holland Brewery in a cooperative effort with Fort Myers Brewing Company, and to whoever added those logos, thank you. It looks really good. All right, so had a great event, had a really good time. Yeah, that's you. Thank you, Amanda Auer. You're the best. So had a really good time. It was a good cooperative effort. As Tam said, weather did hinder some of the activity there, but we pulled it off, worked really hard, trudged through the snow, and did our best on that. And what it did was gave us an opportunity to go to an important target market directly and talk to some of the local media. So here Tam was interviewed live on a local TV station. Hit it out of the park as always. We also had a radio interview, also had a radio interview that went really well after returning. So these things tend to produce dividends even long after we've been in the destination. So coverage, interest, as you know, from 14 people being here remains really high. And we've been very fortunate that the coverage has been really good, and we're sort of migrating gently away from the messaging of recovery to what's new, what's coming, what we have going on here. And we've just we've hit it out of the park this year. It's been really good. We've been very successful, and we've had just a lot of response. Remains a strong, part of it's the value, part of it's the destination, part of it's the weather. We hosted Dave Pollard from the Toronto Sun, which is a large paper in Toronto. They ran a double truck, full color package back in March and did a really good job on it. So we're very appreciative for them and for Dave being down here. And interest from foreign media as well as Canada. We had a great pickup from Afar magazine, from Reader's Digest, and again, interest remains high. We're doing really well in that department and very grateful for the coverage we're getting. Another factor that is sort of coming more and more into play for us is outdoor writers. There's a lot of between fishing, between outdoor activity, kayaking, and we also have coming up the anniversary of the Blue Way. High interest, and it's something that we're trying to pursue as aggressively as possible. And again, part of that is working with you on that, and we appreciate it. So moving on to numbers, January, February were pretty good numbers. We had pretty good response, feel like the coverage was strong. March, it blew up, as you can see from that. And there's a number of different factors that come into play, but the biggest factors are two stories. One of them was a story in Afar, which is an online magazine, travel magazine, that talked about alternatives to spring break in Miami Beach. So Miami Beach, this was sort of a nice effect from Miami Beach. I don't know if you've all seen the video from Miami Beach. It took off. And in the area, or in our area, from Afar magazine. So we got a blurb in that, and that was huge because it was picked up in Yahoo. So news aggregators, when they pick this stuff up, the cascading effect of other people grabbing it is just exponential. It's fantastic. And then the other story was a Southern Living piece that was also picked up by Yahoo, which is, I think, 10 picturesque places in the South that Southern Living ran. We were among them, and it was a really nice piece. So again, just the syndication effect was very strong at the end of the quarter there.
Ray, the Miami video you're talking about, is that the one that don't come, more or less? That don't?
We're breaking up.
Yeah, we're breaking up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was great.
If you missed that email, you can search for my name and find that.
Yeah.
It was really a good video.
Yeah, it's
well
like
done.
we need to come up with a new word for viral, because viral is almost too weak for how well that went for them. But the nice thing is the cascading effect for us was there was interest in a story to talk about alternatives to Miami Beach spring break, and we were with them. And, that's sort of how that sort of played together and worked really well for us. Our industry partner spotlight, we're up to 16 episodes on our YouTube channel. And this month is Gulf Coast Kayak. They were on Matt Lachey. They were unable to reopen after the storm on Matt Lachey. They're working on it. They're trying to get back there. But in the interim, they've partnered with the Westin Cape Coral and are providing excursions out of there and doing a really good job with it. So if you're interested, I can give you the QR code, or you can point your camera there and get a chance to see about a minute and 15 seconds. We're kind of trying to keep them tight, short, and solid. So, and lastly, the dance card fills up quickly for us. We have a lot going on April, May. We have coming up on the 16th, we've got a double tap, and then at the end of the month, we've got Jen Young from Travel and Leisure magazine. So again, big site, important visit. In May, of course, we'll be at IPW. And on the 13th, we have Cephas McRae. And I bring up Cephas McRae for two reasons. One is I really like his name and saying Cephas McRae, because it's a really Two, well, it's three reasons then, sorry. Two, he's an absolute gentleman. He's just a Southern gentleman in that old school, cut from that cloth of really solid, decent person. And he has a TV show called Nuts and Bolts Fishing. And the third reason I bring him up is what's cool about it is he has the fishing show, which shows the catching and the guides. So talks wherever he is, he discusses the community and talks about what to catch, where to catch it, what to use, those things, and fishes with a guide. But the second half of that I think is really unique and haven't seen very often, is that he talks to local chefs. So wherever in the destination he is, he speaks to local chefs about how to cook the stuff that you caught, and local specialties and recipes. So usually there's a restaurant component or several restaurant components, as well as, just he discusses accommodations. So he's really good at just sort of telling the entire story, the back end of the story, not just the fishing part. So really like the guy. He's going to be here 13th through 16th, and believe he's staying with you, Rob. And then in June, we have two large groups coming, a UK journalist group media visit, which is probably one of the most important ones we're going to have from them this year, and a Visit Florida group that's coming from Brazil, which we haven't had many from Brazil. So it's basically what Visit Florida is couching this as is these are people who are now looking at alternatives to Orlando and Miami. So flying into Miami, and they might do a little bit of Miami, but we're hoping to siphon off some of that and introduce them to our market. So that's what I have, pending any questions. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Now I'd like to invite Jill Vance up to give the sales report, and Charm will join her on the international portion.
Good morning, Council. I'm Jill Vance, Director of Sales. Here's a recap of the first 6 months of this fiscal year's sales goals. We are either on pace or ahead of pace for all of our goals. For group media, here are just a couple examples from last quarter. For meetings media, I'm thrilled to show you our new meetings media campaign called Where Work Meets Play. The premise of this campaign is, since the goal of all conferences are to attain a productive outcome, planners can achieve their goal at our destination where work and play blend seamlessly together. Planners can blend their meeting with a regenerative activity like planting mangroves to protect our shoreline, or with a team building activity like learning to sail or even playing golf at one of our beautiful golf courses. This ad campaign will be rolled out next month, and I can't wait to see where it takes us. Also, at our last TDC meeting, our marketing director, Brian Ozowski, gave you a high-level overview of our upcoming interactive video. The video will help planners efficiently find the type of facility that best fits their needs by giving them the ability to click on different options within the video, including submitting an RFP. Although the full video has not been completed yet, I just want to give you a sneak peek with a clip of the video's introduction.
Hi, welcome to the islands, beaches, and neighborhoods of Fort Myers. I'm the meeting planner's planner. My job is to make sure meeting planners like you know why meetings are successful here. Let's get going, shall we? Some fast facts for you. The Fort Myers area is situated on the Gulf of Mexico in Southwest Florida. The area is known for beautiful settings that inspire innovation and productivity. Meeting attendees love our pristine barrier islands, white sand beaches, tranquil waterways, historical neighborhoods, and parks and preserves. Our destination also offers meeting spaces that are typically just right for small to mid-sized groups. There are also world-class entertainment, shopping, and dining options. I think it's time we look beyond the beach, don't you? Just a moment as I confirm I have my extra headset. Phew, that could have been really bad. Let's start with meeting space. Fort Myers offers large conference resorts, waterfront hotels, and a host of boutique properties, many of which have over 3,000 square feet of designated meeting space. there are plenty of on-site and off-site, indoor and outdoor options. First things first, what kind of space are you looking for?
And then next, the meeting planner will be given options to select. So this video will be a great tool for our sales team to entice more conference business to the destination, and we hope to have it completed before June. Here are some of the group sales team's activities for last quarter. On top is Candace with some of our partners at the Religious Conference and Management Association show. There were over 300 faith-based meeting planners in attendance. Candace conducted 46 one-on-one appointments in addition to attending networking events. And so far, 9 leads totaling over 3,600 room nights have already been sent to our hotel partners as a direct result of this show. Also, Erin attended Visit Florida's Florida Encounter show, which is Florida's premier hosted planner trade show. There were about 150 meeting planners in attendance, and Erin met one-on-one with qualified planners who already have business for Florida. So far, 6 RFPs with almost 3,000 room nights have been sent to our hotel partners from this show. Some travel trade activities for last quarter. Here's Jennifer at a couple travel and adventure shows. These are consumer shows with a travel advisor component. There were over 32,000 attendees at the consumer shows, and we also participated in their Travel Advisor Passport program, which gave Jennifer the opportunity to personally speak with over 500 travel advisors. Some upcoming activities for the domestic sales team. For April, I just want to highlight that even as we speak, Betsy's attending Conference Direct Annual Partners Meeting. Conference Direct has over 400 meeting planners and is our #2 top producing third-party meeting planning organization. This is a 3-day reverse trade show with many networking opportunities, and 9 RFPs with almost 5,000 room nights were sent to our hotel partners from last year's show. In May, Erin and Lauren will divide and conquer at the Helms-Briscoe Annual Business Conference. Helms-Briscoe is our #1 producing third-party meeting planning organization. This is a 2-day reverse trade show with over 1,200 attendees. Our marketing department will also geofence this show and deliver display ads to attendees during the conference and for 1 month following the conference. Last year, RFPs totaling over 11,000 room nights were sent to our hotel partners resulting from this show. And finally, for June, Jennifer will be attending Travel Advisors of the Mid-South Annual Conference and Trade Show. In addition to a booth at the show, we're co-hosting a client dinner with the Central Florida and St. Pete Clearwater CVBs, and it will feature our very popular Sips of Sunshine game, which is a really fun and effective way to educate our travel advisors on our destination. Also, this show is near Nashville, so it's a great way for us to promote our 10th annual Island Hopper Songwriter Festival. Are there any questions before I turn it over to Charm? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jill.
Good morning, Council. Charm Evans, reporting on the VCB Global Sales Manager, reporting on the international sales activities for the period of January through March. The team continues to engage and educate the travel trade and consumers in our core markets by conducting various trainings, marketing initiatives, consumer events, and travel trade activities, such as the Product Manager Familiarization Trip conducted at the end of January and into February, where we invited international product managers from Canada, the UK, Germany, and Scandinavia to showcase the current status of the destination. Immediately after this FAM, we continued on to Miami for Visit Florida's annual Florida Huddle. During this international trade event, we conducted over 40 one-on-one appointments, as well as attended different networking events. And we also were joined by South Seas Island Resort in the Westin Cape Coral Resort at Marina Village. In March, we attended ITB Berlin, one of the largest global B2B travel trade shows, where we held appointments, radio interviews, and hosted our annual Discover America dinner event with our Port Authority partners. This is a continuous collaboration where we aim to increase demand for the RSW flights through our sales and marketing efforts. Discussions held during both of those events also were around the international appointments and focused, the discussions held during those two international appointment shows focused on the destination's current status, marketing initiatives, and the outlook for 2025. Looking ahead for the coming months, the team will be participating in a number of shows, including Visit Florida's UK Sales Mission, taking place in Glasgow, Birmingham, and Manchester at the end of this month, as well as U.S. Travel Association's IPW in Los Angeles. We will also be attending Brand USA's inaugural Canada Connect in Toronto, Montreal, and Calgary. This will be happening in June, where we will be taking place in a blend of B2B meetings, networking opportunities, and educational panels on the Canadian travel trade, while also engaging with key stakeholders, thus developing and fostering our inbound Canadian visitation. And that concludes my report, and if there aren't any questions, that's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charm. Let's welcome Simone up.
Good morning, Council. Simone Baer, Director of Visitor Services. Happy to give you the update on what's happening with us during the second quarter, January through March. Our volunteers assisted 222,841 visitors and residents arriving at RSW. They worked 9,627 hours at a value to the county of $306,139. They worked at 4 different special projects and community support. And that number that I just mentioned, the 222,000, that is a record for us. It's definitely been a very, very busy 3 months at RSW, and here you can see our volunteers engaging with the traveling public in just so many different ways. The top requests during that time period for accommodations was the Drury Inn, the Hampton Inn, and Home 2 Suites, all located close to the airport. Top attractions, aside from the beaches, was 6 Mile Cypress Slough, Manatee Park, and the Edison Fort Winter Estates. Top activities was baseball, canoeing, and birding. Our volunteers were also involved in various community and partner support efforts. They assisted at Art Fest, Southwest Florida Ag Expo, a conference at the Hyatt, the big global entry enrollment event that took place last month at RSW, and we did roll out Project Cookie a number of times. And of course, baseball. Volunteers worked, we have visitor information booths, as you know, at both spring training facilities. They worked all the home games and had a great time engaging with the public. We also offered various destination education training sessions for the volunteers. Manatee Park, Everglades Day Safari, Players Circle Theater, Rotary Park, and Hampton Inn in Cape Coral, Margaritaville, both spring training games, and Leitran. And a big thank you to our partners who are hosting the volunteers. Looking ahead, we're very excited to be hosting the 24th Annual Elaine McLaughlin Outstanding Hospitality Service Awards, the E-Awards, August 23rd at Calusa Sound. We are open for nominations, eawards.org. If you wanted to go ahead and nominate someone, we'd love to honor that individual. And also thank you to so many of you who will be at the Tourism Ambassador Appreciation Luncheon tomorrow. Thank you for being there. And that's it for me, unless there's any questions.
Questions for Simone? Simone.
Thank you, Tam. Under new business, beach and shoreline program update, Nancy.
Good morning, Council. Nancy McPhee. I'm here this morning to give you the materials that you need to conduct your review of the beach and shoreline request for fiscal year 25. In your packet is the memo that's displayed. You will be conducting your annual beach and shoreline workshop here in this room on April 24th at 2 p.m. So we are providing you with some background information on all the requests so that you can prepare for that workshop. The goal of that workshop is, of course, to discuss the projects and make recommendations for funding for next fiscal year, that the TDC will consider for approval at their May meeting. The total funding requested that's eligible for next year is $11,878,000. And right now, preliminary estimates for funding, based on funding projections for next year, revenue projections, sorry, is $12,297,256. So with the information that I'm providing you today, you will be reviewing 17 requests. And this worksheet is what you'll use during the workshop on April 24th. We've categorized them by what the TDC has made priority, beach renourishment being the #1 priority. We've indicated the amount requested and if applicable, the amount that's ineligible. Some portions of some projects were deemed ineligible. So the total amount eligible, again, is the total amount eligible that's being requested is $11,878,000. Some of the information that's going to help you in your request is the county eligibility determination sheet, so you can see the comments provided by the county attorney regarding some of the projects. Several of them, I believe 10, will require you make a legislative finding at your workshop. The Coastal Advisory Council conducted their review, and they had a workshop on April 4th, and they also provided some comments on a few of the projects. So this is all information that will help you prepare for your workshop on April 24th. The final document that I'm going to provide for you in your packet is the active project status report. So we've been funding projects for many years. Some of those projects are still in progress. So this gives you a look at where they are, what the estimated timeline for completion might be, if they still have project funds available to them. And as the projects are completed, we take them off this list. But this list is located on our partner site on the Beach and Shoreline page, and we get updates from our partners quarterly. So there is a link in your packet to the Dropbox where all 17 requests are located. I will be resending that to you this afternoon, just so that you'll have it at top of your email box. But that is how you'll view them. All the information that I've presented today, as well as the requests, are in that Dropbox link. And if needed, binders may be available if you need them. Some of you like them. So that's all I have. Unless there's questions, that'll complete my update for you, and happy reading.
Nancy, on these projects that were already approved,
yeah.
And do they update you, say if they're not going to, I don't know, something happened, they're not going to move forward, the funds?
Yep, they're required to give us a status update quarterly, and that does happen. It happened after Ian. Some projects, they relinquished the funds, the allocations back to reserves because they weren't going to proceed with projects.
So they go back to the reserve?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And if they don't spend all of the allocation, same thing, it's returned to reserves.
Just to add a little bit to that, Bill, so at the end of a fiscal year, we have to decide whether we're carrying those funds forward to the next fiscal year or not, so that we use that update from them to make a decision on whether those funds get carried forward. If a project is canceled, then those funds aren't carried forward, which means that they then go into reserves. So the project is essentially canceled, and those funds go into reserve. Just so you know how the procedure works. It's technically it happens like in December, not right at the beginning of the fiscal year, but in essence, those funds aren't spent.
Rob?
Do we have access to what funds go back in that don't get used? What projects didn't get funding or didn't use the funding, and do those projects, because of Ian, then get priority for that funding the next fiscal year?
There are about 3 questions there. So in terms of notifying you, the status report would tell you whether those projects are not moving forward or not. So that would be your notification that those projects aren't going to move forward. In terms of prioritizing projects after Ian, we've never been in that position. I mean, everything's new territory, as we all know. But I think that that's what you get to do when you have the Beach and Shoreline workshop. You get to make a decision about which of those projects move forward. And, as Nancy pointed out, we're really, really close in terms of eligible dollars and dollars available, but this group has before recommended this project still needs to move forward. We recommend funding from reserves. Obviously, that's the commission's decision on whether they allow that to happen, but they take that recommendation from the TDC. I think I answered all your questions.
You did. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob?
What's the rough balance of the reserves at this time?
Round numbers, 60 million, that's my round number. And that's probably not perfect, but because we're, as you know, we're dipping into those as we operate. But
as projects get delayed, and then you get the update at the end of the fiscal year, how long can they keep
it's a good question.
delaying it?
So the agreements, as they stand right now, effective this current year, 3 years is the max will carry projects forward. There are projects on this list that are older than that. You can see several projects that have requested extensions because of Ian. But 3 years, we reevaluate with the partners to determine.
And just to add to that, Billy, again, I think, our goal is we want these projects to go forward. We want them to get the funding. If their due diligence is they're working to get the permit or whatever the delay is, we'll stick with them. The goal is to have the projects done. But, unfortunately, as much as we'd like to be, the dollars for this year get spent this year, because so many of these are coastal projects, it's very, very difficult to make it happen in 1 year. So we try to be reasonable, but there are some projects that are long in the tooth, for sure.
Thank you. Any other?
Just one question, Andrea, Attorney Fraser. Are you doing the legal opinions in all of these consistently, or is there anyone else that's working on those as well?
No, it's just me.
Just you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nancy, thank you.
So if, in closing, beach nourishment is very important. So we're going to have Steve come up and give you an overview of all the upcoming projects that are being planned.
Thanks, you took my line.
Good morning, Steve Boutelle with the county's Natural Resources Division, and just over a year ago was the last time I was here. At that point, I had kind of an ugly story to tell you about how the beaches fared from the storm impacts, so I'm going to give you an update now about what we're doing about those and kind of the status for each of those projects where we are right now. There's a lot going on. Just for some context, in case there's new faces or folks listening online, to remind you, we have over 40 miles of sandy beaches in the county. We don't work on all of them. We focus on those that are designated as critically eroded. On this map, that would be anything that you're seeing here in those red outlines. They have to be critically eroded, and then they also have to have public access to them. So that's kind of defines the sandbox that we play in, so to speak. And now as we get into, did I do that? Okay. Just to orient you, I'm going to walk you through from north to south, each of the projects that we've got going on. We'll have a slide that looks something like this. There are a couple pieces on here I just want to point out to you. Those numbers that you see on the shoreline. The state of Florida establishes a monitoring program for all of the sandy beaches. Those we call the R monuments, and those give us a fixed reference point that we can use to keep track of what's going on all of our beaches. We use that to define the project limits, the erosion rates, lots of things. Good, useful reference point for us on beaches where there's not, street signs and other things like that to work with. The colored lines that you see on there, a reminder from the last time I was here, the one closest to the shoreline, that color codes the damage that we saw from Ian. All of Lee County had damage. Gasparilla had minor damage. As you get south onto Captiva, all of them hit that condition 4, which is severe. And again, a little bit of a reminder that minor damage means we saw some of the beach erode. If it was moderate, the condition 2, that means maybe it got up into the toe of the dune. Condition 3 means it was a major dune impact as well as beach erosion. And then condition 4, which was virtually everything in Lee County south of Captiva, means the dune was either completely removed or seriously damaged. So we had a lot to work with. Back on Gasparilla now, and we'll start walking through projects. Gasparilla is our one federal project, and what that means is it's controlled by the Army Corps of Engineers. They have evaluated that project and determined that there's about a $10.3 million project that needs to be done there. Positive PIR, that's the project impact report. That means that they've done their cost-benefit analysis and determined, yes, it's in the federal interest to do this work. Not only that, they have flood control and coastal emergency funding, which means they'll pay 100%. The problem we have to deal with there is there have been some new developments with the Army Corps in terms of how they deal with easements that are necessary to build beach projects. We're currently right now still in negotiation with Jacksonville and Atlanta to determine exactly what the condition of our easements are, what deficiencies we might need to fix in order for them to come and do that project. We're confident that a path forward is developing. We're not alone on this. It's literally every beach project in the U.S. is facing this right now for the federal Army Corps projects. But we're right now anticipating that would be a 2026 project according to the Corps schedule. So that one's a little bit out on the horizon and has a few hurdles to get over before we get there. A little bit closer to home now, we'll work our way down into Captiva and Sanibel. A couple of pictures to remind you what those impacts looked like as that surge retreated. We had these ebb flow channels that they're called, and those big scours took a lot of that dune away with them, as well as the beach. That was most noticeable on Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach. To an extent on Captiva, they had to deal with that as well. So on Captiva right now, the other part I want to point out to you, that blue line, that shows you where historic projects are in place for beach renourishment. So Captiva, as you'll see, is entirely covered, and then just the northern piece of Sanibel were the historic projects. I'll come back to that in a minute. Captiva now. They're currently evaluating their beach impacts. They had over 427,000 cubic yards of sand that was lost to the storm. So despite the fact they had recently nourished their beach, it protected a lot of the infrastructure, but was damaged significantly. So they are out to bid right now. You heard Chad mention the town of Fort Myers Beach opens bids on Monday. They open their bids on Friday. That's significant as well. I'll come back to that. They're looking at about an 800,000 cubic yard project. Interestingly enough, they're not getting any federal funding. They are caught in an unusual place where they don't qualify for Army Corps help or for FEMA help, something that they're working on, and we're trying to work with them. But they did get some good state assistance, about a $13 million grant from DEP. That $12 million local cost is what's remaining. Traditionally, we've paid about 25% of that local cost out of the tourist tax revenues and the beach funds. We don't have an interlocal agreement with the Captiva Erosion Prevention District yet. They're the ones managing that project, but we're anticipating a request from them very soon. Another part that's interesting about their project is the bid that's on the streets right now has 3 construction windows that there are about 6 companies in the U.S. that can do this kind of work. So it's a pretty limited pool. In order to give them flexibility and try to attract competitive bidding, they put some options in there so that companies, based on their availability, will be able to give them some better pricing. We think that's going to be significant, and I'll show you at the end why. But we'll know more about that a week from tomorrow. That northern Sanibel piece, so that if you look on the map, the R110 to 120, that's where our Blind Pass dredging project has put sand in the past. There were losses from the storm. We did a truck haul project that the state funded to get some sand back out in front of the road there and protect that evacuation route. Didn't completely replace what was lost there, and so at this point we're still evaluating what our next steps will be in that location, looking at that in cooperation with both CEPD and the City of Sanibel. So stay tuned on that one. But what is going on Sanibel is a lot of trucks, and they've been doing a great job to address that shoreline from R20 out to the lighthouse, R120, sorry. Historically, that's been really stable. So it's not that they haven't been doing a project to maintain it because they've been negligent. It just hasn't needed it, which is a great thing. The storm impacts were not something that were going to recover easily on their own. So they were very successful to get state funding and some FEMA funding. They've got that over $14 million contract, which is days, if not hours, from wrapping up. And just to give you a sense of what that looks like, I stole these from the city's recent presentation. Those are those scour channels that I mentioned. That's what they looked like before. You can see on that top picture. And in the bottom, that is after they had completed one of the sections. And you can see how that has restored that baseline for the beach. And then that dune vegetation is going to come back on its own very quickly. So they have been very busy. They had 4 segments out there. You can kind of see the color coding, and that orange hatch was the last place where they were working. And again, they anticipate having that completed within days. So been doing a lot of work out there. A couple of things that they still have on their radar. They got great pricing, and so they have some state funding remaining. They're anticipating doing some additional work by the lighthouse to try to reinforce the beach protections for that historic site there. And then they're looking again up at that kind of blind pass area to see what might be good to do there. Not going to go too much into this one because Chad already addressed that pretty well for you. I will point out the funding breakdown there. It's a huge project. Historically, we had just done that section from 182 north. Their project really covers most of the island with the exception of a small piece there just south of 200. They got state money from Division of Emergency Management. They got FEMA funding, which Chad mentioned, and then they also had some regular grant funding from DEP, as well as some storm recovery funding. So that very large project got a great cost share from those partners, but is left with about a $12.4 million local share based on the projections. Again, we'll know more about that on Monday. Our interlocal agreement with the town is processing. The town has signed that. It's routing to the county commission right now. About 75% of that local share is going to come from the bed taxes. Continuing to move south. Like I said, there's a lot going on. Lover's Key is also out to bid right now. This will be a repair of the state park, which lost from the storm almost 43,000 cubic yards of sand, but was ready for its next nourishment really before the storm hit. So you can see the pricing breakdown there, as well as the construction window, which will start in November of this year. That one gets 88% funding from the state of Florida, largely because of that state park that is there, that qualifies for 100%. And that $2.1 million local, again, comes from bed tax. We partner this project with Bonita Beach, just because of their proximity, and they're both getting the sand from the same location. So it helps save some money there. They're being bid together and will be constructed in sequence. And you can see there's about a $4 million local share there. That is cost shared with the city of Bonita Springs in accordance with the interlocal agreement that we have with them. Last piece that's going on, also out to bid, South Bonita Beach. This, much like Sanibel, had a stretch of shoreline that was historically stable, but was damaged by the storm. So they were successful in receiving state funding to take a look at that repair job there. We have partnered that into the other project to, again, get economies of scale on that bidding. And so the one challenge that might come into play there is because it was not in the historic nourishment area, they're still trying to resolve some easements in that location, but we look forward to trying to get largely that dune repair project done there as well. And I've got one summary slide here to kind of put this all into perspective for you. So the sequencing, those dark green, Sanibel, Fort Myers Beach trucking, those are under contract and getting ready to wrap up. Next thing we anticipate then would come up is that Fort Myers Beach nourishment. And you can see the way these sequence, that is strategic on our part. The companies, as I mentioned, there aren't very many of them, and when they mobilize in to do one of these projects, it is literally a multi-million-dollar effort just to move the equipment, personnel, and the machinery that's necessary to do this. So we've tried to structure this in such a way that there's an opportunity for these vendors to work these in sequence, thereby not having to move this equipment from, say, New Jersey or Louisiana or Texas, but they could come to Fort Myers and hang around for a while. If this works out as we hope it will, again, that could be a multi-million-dollar savings to us collectively. We're going to learn a lot more about that. This is why we waited on our bid opening date intentionally, so that those who are successful at Fort Myers Beach and Captiva will know who they are, and we'll have the opportunity then to factor in that mobilization savings to the pricing that they provide and to the Lovers Key Bonita bid. You'll see on that summary on the cost there the projected TDT portion of that. The other thing that I will tell you is that right now we have, between what's in our project budgets and what is in the, you'll recall, the trust fund where we allocate money every year towards future efforts. Right now we've got about $14 million already in those collective budgets, so we're in pretty good shape. But we did want to make sure that you recognize that there's a potential that we might need to, in order to get all of this work done in this timeline, come back with some use of some reserves potentially if we can't cover everything. I'll tell you, we are also pursuing some new state funding, which we anticipate might come available in July. So I think we're in pretty good shape, but would hope that should we have a bit of a shortfall there, that you would recognize the advantages of doing these collectively and be supportive should we need to take a look at some of those, using some of those reserves. So I'll stop there and address any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Council members, thank you.
Thank you. You had mentioned in a few of the different segments there, different percentages that PDT would be asked. Is that established in the interlocal agreements where one municipality would get a greater percentage of that responsibility covered than others? How's that percentage determined?
Right, so the percentage on the local share is defined in those interlocal agreements, and it has historically been built on a consistent formula that's been applied throughout the county that looks at a couple of things. One is, first, it's got to be eligible based on those criteria that we mentioned with the critical erosion. But then it largely looks at how that project benefit allocates into two buckets. One being storm protection, so how is that work going to benefit protection for the infrastructure that's there, and then how does it benefit the tourism component? And so there are economic studies that look at that. And so what we have done is said that, okay, by policy, the county commission is going to pay for 100% of that tourism or recreation benefit as long as it's publicly accessible. And so we have another factor that goes into the formula to look at the public access, which is defined by DEP. There's a rule of how they measure that. And then we prorate that out. If it's not 100% eligible because it doesn't have all the public access, then that piece would be reduced accordingly.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Steve, this has nothing to do with any dredging of, like you say, a blind pass or anything like that. This is all, that'd be a separate issue completely?
Right, so dredging a blind pass is separate. Anytime there's dredging in the county, we take a look to see, is the material that's being removed beach compatible? Because if it is, then it's a win-win if we can take that material and put it onto a beach somewhere that could benefit from it. Right now, we're continuing just to monitor blind pass. We know there are some adjacent issues that are coming up in some of the side channels, but actually the pass itself scoured from Ian and is deeper than it was before the storm. So between that and also knowing that Captiva is going to put a lot of sand right into that system, which can have an impact on those smaller inlets, we're really not in a hurry to want to dredge blind pass. We want to let some of that evolve and see how that plays out. So that will be a separate issue, but it clearly will, at some point, generate some more sand that will go onto Sanibel.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I just, one comment to Bill, in Blind Pass, that when we had that issue, we did come to the TDC for that area, and it was access to Captiva, the roadway safety, and it was tied actually, it was tourism TDC dollars. We were able to overcome that because we could have lost the access to Captiva with some of the impact. And thank you for touching on Sanibel. That was in some of my, ending comments. So I just want to let everybody know how well that nourishment project has been going. And one thing that we were able to do, I went up to Tallahassee and was able to ask them to forward the money of that $14 million. As you know, FEMA reimbursement is usually in arrears, and we know that can take years. So the state actually stepped right in and did give us that opportunity to take those funds in advance so we could pay those vendors, which is a huge impact for the municipalities, that have been impacted by Ian. In regards to the permitting for FEMA, that's a big deal. I was in DC and we were actually talking with the Army Corps of Engineers on that, because it's not that anything has changed, it's a new interpretation, which could be critically impacting the permitting process and how long it might take. So anything that can be done, I was up there, talked to them at their direction actually in regards to that one issue, and talked for the state of Florida on the impacts of that. So huge. I'd love to hear more when you have information. I'm sure you'll get it to that. That is for all of the engineered beaches that are impacted, which is most of Lee County, not so much on Sanibel. Just wanted to touch on our nourishment. We are ahead of schedule. Of course, it was very difficult for us to look at having those big Tonka trucks on our beaches, but we had over 75 huge scour areas. So we are ahead of schedule, like you said. We should be done in about maybe about right now, minutes or days, like you said. And we're really pleased. We've got our first snowy plover nests that we've been finding, and a lot of this was driven by our nesting season, which we needed to make sure that there was not going to be any impact there. Some of the items that we had to look at were some of the change orders that I'm sure everyone will have the same thing over time. One was a direct sand purchase. We actually had to look at the different types of sand grains that you could incorporate, because that limited, you said there's only so many companies that can do this type of work, and we looked to say, okay, was that sand grain really what we needed, because it allowed us to broaden who we could use as a potential contractor. We still have a change order for Lighthouse Beach Park. We have had recently quite a bit of escarpment issues because of these storminess conditions that we've had that aren't related to a hurricane. It's the regular, because of this, really the cycle that we're in. So we have escarpment at Lighthouse, at Casa Ibal, and up around Blind Pass. So looking to see how that fits into our contractual agreements with our nourishment, or if that's something that we've got to look at. Tony, I know you brought up Blind Pass. That's a concern as well. We've been discussing, our staff has been in discussion regarding that impact of what might be coming from the nourishment from Captiva into the pass, and if that's impeding some of the waterways, and we know it's not for recreation, for being able to dredge that, but the impact of that is pretty, could be very impactful on what's happening there. So those negotiations are ongoing on that. And I think that's it. We're looking forward to our Lighthouse Beach Park sand placement, and we were able to discuss with Army Corps in Washington, D.C., how to look at that as being impacted as well by Ian, because it was, and that helped us with that permitting glitch that many are having. If you can tie it to Ian, which we know most of us can, then it could be an extension of a permit in lieu of starting a new permit, which is the concerns that everybody have of how long that might take. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions?
Not a question, maybe it's a question. We were given, along with 3 other counties, an allocation of funds to help in recovery. A certain percentage was for infrastructure, a certain percentage was for affordable housing. Just last week, there was another release available to more than just the 4 counties previous, and it was about $910 million. Do you know whether we will be seeking any of those dollars for any of these projects in addition to the dollars already committed from the state?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know specifically about that. One thing I will tell you in general on the federal programs, if you have alternative options, they always want to be the last in line. So I'm not specifically aware of what you're talking about there, but I know we're always looking for whatever opportunities we can to help in this recovery on the beaches. I'm sure if there's an option, our team will be aware of it and look at it.
Thank you. Any other questions for Steve?
If you have questions that come up later, just track me down. We don't do all these projects, but we try to be a resource for everybody who does, so I'm happy to help where we can.
Thank you for the update. For council information. Tam.
There are a number of items in your packet, and I have a couple of additional items that I'm going to add to it when we send the final version out to you that came in late yesterday. But you got plenty of reading there, and as I mentioned, that star presentation from Destinations Florida, I know the hoteliers will want to pay particular attention to that. We'll share that with industry partners, but we'll keep you busy on your reading here for the next few weeks.
Great, thank you. TDC member items. We'll start with Pam. Anything? Mr. Mayor?
Just a quick thing. I know we've talked a lot about beach access, and I think Attorney Fraser, you've spoken with our attorney. I think it was you, maybe it wasn't you. We're just trying to figure out, as the most visited beach access in the county, it's traditionally not been able to receive funding from the TDC. And we've heard years of speculation as to why. We're just trying to get some answers as to, is it something that the town has or hasn't done to make it eligible, or is it just never going to be eligible for beach and renourishment, or is there other avenues, as you had mentioned earlier, that some of the projects that are going on in that area could bucket it could fall into to be able to receive some funding for that? And the reason I bring it up now is, especially after Ian, it's been abundantly clear that there's some things that we work with the county on to try to make that a safe area. Obviously, we all know about the pier. Karen Woodson was here for me last meeting because I was out of town. That's one part of it, but the people that traverse that and the parks on either side, Crescent and Lynn Hall Park, that stoplight still hasn't been fixed. The crosswalk there is very dangerous. It backs up traffic. And is there any way that through TDC funding some of that could be expedited to be able to try to get those things fixed? Because a FEMA obligation, we all know that can take years to get some of this stuff done. And to provide again, the number one beach access, security and safety issues is something that I think we should really take a look at. And if there's any information you can give us, that if it's something that we need to do as a council policy-wise to make it eligible, whether it hasn't, it's still considered a road, or if it needs to be called Times Square Park versus Times Square, or if there's anything that we can do policy-wise to at least be eligible to receive some funding, we would certainly like that information.
I did speak with your attorney and pointed her in the right direction. She had a question about ownership, though. So it wasn't anything about, is it eligible for funding? It was a question about the ownership of that access area.
And I think maybe she misunderstood what the question was that she was supposed to ask. It was, we had heard, or I have heard, that it might be because we never vacated the old road, because that used to be the road that actually went to the beach. So there's some speculation that maybe it's still considered a right-of-way, and it's not. So maybe that's why she was asking about the ownership part of it.
And so I sent her to the right person in the department and provided her the information. I haven't heard back from her since.
Okay, then I'll follow up with her. But if there's any information that can be provided to us to let us know, to be able to get some funding for that most visited area, we'd certainly like to be proactive in trying to get at least on the list.
Thank you. Mr. Wachulis.
Good, thank you.
Anyone up here? Christine, Tam?
No, thank you.
Holly?
Yeah, just a few things. As Tam had mentioned, Sanibel Siesta open. 50 of their 62 units are now online. That's a big deal for us. We are now actually at 17% of our accommodations, and we hope to keep those rolling throughout the next few months with more coming online. We did have a groundbreaking for Shalimar. That is our first ground-up resort reconstruction. Those are the original owners, and they'll be moving forward. It's a big deal for us. With as difficult as it can be to get everything through permitting in any municipality, to get that moving forward is really important to us. So we're looking forward to that. And of course, I want to thank the VCB for always coming out and celebrating everything with us. It means a lot to us, it means a lot to the community, and it means a lot to Southwest Florida. So we appreciate that. We've got Island Night. That is next week. That is April 17th. So please come out if you'd like to see baseball and a really cool parade with about 50 people in the audience. Please come and enjoy that. Maybe we can get 100 people in the audience, but a lot of fun. That's been a tradition for years. We moved the time, so it does not rain every year. So we did have rain every year before. Also upcoming next week, as you all may know or may not know, so I'm going to tell you, are the Edison Awards. If you have not participated in that or gone to see the activities, it is phenomenal. It is a partnership between the county, the city of Fort Myers, and the Horizon Foundation. They're the major sponsors. It is innovation coming locally, and the innovation, who they bring here, is absolutely phenomenal. So that is going to be, I believe, the 18th and 19th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. You can go on edisonawards.com to look at the schedule. There's events downtown. Come, enjoy, learn what it is, and be a part of it. And the last thing I have, we do have our mural that's going to be coming on our chamber building, so looking forward to seeing what that is and celebrating that with the Mural Society when they push it forward. Tim, you might have a date on that. I don't, but it's moving. I'm not trying to catch it. It's moving forward.
No, it's
in the works.
It's in the works, yes. Not painting yet, but design and all of that.
Very excited to be a part of that, so thank you. Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Council members, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Cape Coral staff for coming and doing a great presentation. Takes the heat off of me at this point. Just a couple other things to add to it. The Yacht Club rebuild has met a very good public response. The renditions just came out, all the different component parts, the neighboring areas there. It's looking much different than they thought it was going to look, as it would relate to obscuring their vision and whatnot. So it's that's moving along quite nicely. That's going to be an amazing place when it's finished. Sunsplash Water Park, they're beginning their edition of the wave pool, which will be another great attraction there. They're expecting that to be complete and part of their offering there for next year's season. And other than that, you saw everything that's going on. We've got a lot going on, and we hope that you all come out and take advantage of it.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Boucher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, staff. Just one item. As we know, there's three types. There's those who say what happened, those who say what's happening, and those that let's make something happen. I've had two outreaches as a city councilman from LA companies out of Los Angeles in the film industry that are looking to relocate to Florida. One's already here. They're based out of Sarasota, but they're very interested in our coast because they see more opportunity here than Sarasota. And what they're looking at is that they like the quality of life in our area. They like the opportunity they're seeing. Several of the projects I'd like to talk to Tam about before we bring anything forward to see what that viability might be. The whole film industry is changing as we're moving into AI, and they don't need the big studios anymore. They can relocate and downsize into smaller communities where they can live where they want to live and not where they have to live. They're willing to invest a lot of money, and let's see what these arts and sports can bring to us. But I look forward to talking with Tam about that and see. Let's get our hands around it. But it's the Harry Potter group that's looking at Fort Myers, not just Fort Myers, Southwest Florida. They're really interested in our beaches and doing programs because they see opportunity. So thank you, and hopefully we'll put something together and bring it back as a package.
Great, thank you. Mr. Wells. Mr. Lappy. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second, we are done. Next meeting is on Thursday, May 9th, 9 a.m. in this room.